Hello, hello. We'll see if it's like this little lag. There we go. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give a moment for everybody to jump on. If you're watching the recording, you can probably jump this ahead a minute or so. Let's see here. Welcome. If you are coming on, let me know you are here. And even if you're watching the replay, so I say all the time, if you guys are watching the replay or you're watching it again on YouTube, please make sure that you send me a message, say hello, ask questions, all those great things, because I love creating conversation and I love really about creating community. And so this is where we're at. I think I have the message is working. It always says that it has a problem loading, and then I'm like, all right, well, let's just see how we do here. So I think I've got it. So if you are popping on live, you can just go ahead and let me know that you are here. We're back to our regular scheduled Facebook lives. I've just realized I never have my ringer on. And so I'm laughing right now because when I stuck it on, I created myself a whole bunch of chaos. There we go. And we just want to make sure we don't have that go off during our session today. So welcome. I am excited to chat with you guys today. Today we are really talking about the space between letting go and what's next. And so, often it can be really hard for us to let go of things. How am I going to... if I let go of this control, so think of letting go is the opposing energy of trying to control something. And for most of us, we don't think about the fact that controlling anything at all. So I say this as a recovering control freak. Controlling is always about a trauma response. It is not natural for us to try and control the outcomes of life. That is an unnatural thing to do. It is, as I always say, it's normal, but it's not natural. And so I say this to you because often we don't think about, why do I do this? And so I was a control freak. I actually at some point had full out OCD. And I would organize everything, my spice drawers, my books, my movies, everything had to be alphabetized. And I would actually panic if they weren't. And I could actually have a total blow up and freak out if somebody had put things away out of order. It has gotten much better over the years, and it took me a long time to understand that this was a trauma response. It was actually one that started when I was probably about 19, 20 years old, when I was in my first marriage. And then I just never let it go. Now there's some things that I still remain, which is like my spice drawer is still alphabetized. It's just easier to find things and it makes most sense to me, so I continue. I don't lose my mind when somebody puts something back wrong though. And so it doesn't have the same aspect. In business, I used to be really controlling. And so this was a hypervigilant state that was very difficult for me to let go of. Same with parenting. And so there's this hypervigilance that is part of it. And so when we understand that, we joke and you're like, I know, I'm a control freak. But when we recognize that being controlling is actually a hypervigilance issue, then it helps us understand what's happening inside of our own bodies. And so if we can understand that this aspect, this characteristic of ourselves that's trying to control things is a hypervigilance, and it comes from not feeling safe or secure in a situation. Often it begins in one space, so we maybe do it at home, and then it grows and expands into other areas of our life. And so it can kind of take on a life of its own if we're not careful with it. And so it's important for us to recognize our traits, our behaviors, and then start to make the adjustments for them because they're not beneficial to us. And how we know they're not beneficial to us is by how our nervous system and our body reacts to it. So when we're in a controlling state, we have tension, we actually move into tertiary breathing. And so we start breathing using our neck muscles, our shoulder muscles. And so we're up here and our breath is in the top quadrants. When we start, slowing things down and taking the pause, and that's why I always say everything begins with pause. Pause, feel, align. That is trademark of everything that I work with. And the sacred pause is an important moment because then we can pause and go, okay, I'm alive, feet on the ground, present in my body. So feel, where's that tension in my body? How am I breathing? And we can do it really quick when we get used to it. So we take the pause, take a breath in. Okay, my shoulders are tense, my hips are tense. That tends to be a place for women, is we tend to clench our butts and our hips in, and you can think of it protecting all of our, feminine organs. And so we start clenching our thighs, our hips, and so all these things bring tension into the sacrum, and it actually makes us less creative. And so this is why often we'll have sciatica issues, because we'll often tense and clench our hips, our pelvis, and our thighs, which puts pressure on the sacrum, which then puts pressure through the piriformis, which then puts pressure onto the sciatica. And so often when people come to me and they're like, oh, I've got tons of sciatica issues, the first question I ask is, talk to me about your beliefs about money right now. And I got to tell you guys, 12 years in, always right. And so it's a thing. So our relationship with money often shows up in sciatica issues. Right sciatica means it is about you, adulthood, your life, your experiences now. Left shows us that it is a family trait. It comes from childhood, and it has been going on for a long time. So it might be ancestral, it might be something far beyond, but it stemmed from before you were an adult. And so we see this in the left side of the body. So, and that's because left side of the body is dominant organs. And so anything happening on our left side often constitutes as something that comes from our childhood, comes from ancestral epigenetic issues. Right side is current life and adult, so 20 years old and later usually, when we see it on the right side of the body. So it just tells us what the body is trying to communicate with us, how old this is, and what do we need to let go of. That's like a little kind of tip in there as we move into this stuff. And so as we go into this controlling piece, the importance of us really letting go is when we are in the clenching, we're creating all this tension in our body. And if we're hyper vigilant, then we're creating hypertension. So we're creating chronic stress. And you start to see the correlation between the way that we think, our feelings and emotions around life in general, so safety and security, and then how it impacts the body. This is the basis of psychoneuroimmunology. So this is like the mind-body connection. It's scientifically proven. There's so much science around it now. Psychologists, doctors, everybody talks about it. It is normal. It does not mean everything is in your head. It is not a blow-off that we don't have a physical problem. It's that we can't fix the physical problem and have it not reoccur if we don't deal with the thinking that's behind it. All emotions, when we look at an emotion, emotions are always rising and falling. They come from our thoughts. Thoughts come from beliefs. Beliefs are mostly embedded prior to the age of 8. And then we simply keep finding supporting documentation for those beliefs as we grow. And that's why we always want to take a look at what is the beliefs that we have. What are the limiting beliefs that are going on here about money, about relationships, about being lovable, about being able to take up your space in this world. And it'll usually come down to something that happened much earlier in your life, even if that belief is showing up in an issue now as an adult. So just keeping all these little components, because they all weave together. It's not like we just have one line. We have to kind of see the big picture for everything. And so when we're looking at, this space, so today I was saying the space between letting go and what's next. And so the first thing that we want to do is practice letting go. And the control issues is always a place that creates chaos in our life. We're trying to control to have peace, to have organization, and we're actually creating chaos. And that's because it comes from a hypervigilant state. And as a trauma response, it's not a healthy response to living in this world. A healthy response is to be present, to have a level of enthusiasm. I wonder what today's going to bring. Every day is new and different. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. That would actually be natural. Might not be our normal, but that would be natural. And so when we see controlling behaviors, they might be normal, but they're not natural. And so this is a place that really helps us understand what is happening inside my body. And so put down here, people think that letting go means everything will instantly feel better. Usually it feels like chaos and scary as shit. just so we're all clear with each other. But it often feels like nothingness first. And so when I first got hurt, so when my accidents first happened, back in the end of 2017, I had 2 car accidents 6 days apart at the end of October. And then 14 months later, I had a very, very minor incident in a vehicle. My whole nervous system went offline. And part of that was just because of everything happening so quickly, and my nervous system couldn't cope, and it just started shutting down. In those first 2 accidents, though, for those first 14 months, I struggled. It took me 6 months to actually leave work. Twice I left short-term disability. Finally, I left on long-term disability. And then we got to a point where the doctors were like, permanently. And I was like, oh, thank goodness I have the crew around me that I do, and a lot of medical team that I had that were like, absolutely not. Neuroplasticity is a thing. We are not saying it's forever. We can absolutely take a look at this and see that there's other options. However, there was this point when I was like, I feel like one door's closed. So here I am, I'm no longer in lighting. And this is like something that I was very good at. My ego was very well fed. My family, took care of my family. Like, this is a big deal for me. And so I lost this whole identity. I lost this entire aspect of my life, which included most of my social life. And so all of a sudden it was gone. And so I'm like, I'm finally, after 6 months, I'm like trying really hard to let go. It was not easy, and it wasn't pretty. I fought this tooth and nail, you guys. And so I really tried to control my healing journey. And so as I was letting go, I said to my doctor, it feels like this door is closed, and there's like this door, and I just need to, I just feel like so scared to let this handle go and then reach for this. Like, there's like, I can't reach them both at the same time. And she looked at me and said, do you know what the space between that door closing and that door opening is called? And I said, no. And she goes, it's called life. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of things that Jenna said to me that I was like, fuck you. And I was unhappy with her answers, but she was a guiding light in my life, and I was so lucky to have her as a doctor because she was right. And it makes me laugh a lot at how often I now teach on things I was not open to what she was suggesting going through it. She's the one that looked at me and said, I want you to stick with your panic attacks and stay present. And I was like, I want them to go the hell away. She's like, nope, stay. And I think I told her to F off several times with that one. And it was like the best thing I ever did, because it taught me not only about my resiliency, it taught me about my power, and it taught me that being present with something that was incredibly uncomfortable made it actually go faster. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. All it was waiting for was my attention. And so as soon as I started giving attention to the emotion, to the experience in my body, just witnessing it, not getting involved in its drama, but witnessing it, the panic attacks within the first week went from 20 minutes to 5. And then after that first week, we got them down. Every so often, I'll still to this day, like, have one come up, and I'm like, oh, just my nervous system in hypervigilance. What's coming up here? There's a bit of panic. And it's like, no, we're okay. We have a new life. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then we just like, let it like, just witness it, notice what's there, and then it just goes. And it's a beautiful thing, because an emotion on its own, when we don't attach the drama, is 90 seconds. Hello, Bobby. Yay. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm starting to see comments, so this is a good thing. I always love when there's something there. So this is the importance. So the space between letting go and what's coming, that is a difficult space, because it feels like nothingness. It feels like we're just standing in the middle of the open room, but there's still action involved. And so we're still walking from one door to the next. In September, when all of a sudden, I guess I mentioned to you guys last week and the one before, is like all these crazy things have been happening over the last couple of months. And so I started downloading this information, and I was in the middle of a session when I got this hit. So for me, I'm claircognizant and sentient. Those are my strengths. We have access to all the clairs. It just means your subtle intuitive gifts. Everybody has them. Nobody's special just because they have them. Some people have stronger cognizance, stronger clairvoyance, which means sight. Some have stronger clairaudience, which means they hear things, empathy, all those pieces. So we all have something, and we all have access to all of them. For me, I have claircognizant, and after the accident, that line, that channel opened really, really clear, and I understood that. I was like, oh, that was what made me so good at my old job, actually, was being able to visualize and understand and see, and so I'd been using my intuitive gifts for a long time, not understanding what we were doing. So in September, I was getting these downloads, might have been the end of August, and I got these downloads, your schooling's done. And I was like, my schooling's done? And I was like, 12 years of training is over. And I was like, oh, got it. And I realized that 12 years ago, about now, I started asking, how come some people heal and some people don't? It was when I met my first energy worker, Susie, and I opened to the world of energy medicine, which I had no clue of even what a chakra was, very skeptical. And I started asking the questions, how come some people heal and some people don't? And I wanted to know that from an emotional place of like going through the trauma I did. How come some people can heal and some people stay a victim or a survivor? How do I get beyond this? And so I started that question. When I got hurt 8 years ago this month, all of a sudden that question changed to like, how come some people heal and some people don't? How come some people spontaneously heal and some people don't, on a physical level? And so that took me into the not only neuroscience and quantum physics, but Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Wayne Dyer before that. But like I started to open, and so then I started looking at science and mysticism to understand this. And so it took me into a way bigger picture of it. And so for 12 years, that has been the question, the one burning question I've been asking. How do some people heal and some people don't? At the end of August, I all of a sudden started to notice that I referenced the 7 laws of co-creation, which I've done podcasts and talked on. And all of a sudden, I realized I was also referencing like the 4 agreements and Course in Miracles. I was referencing other things, and I was like, oh, if the 7 laws were complete, I wouldn't need to reference anything else other than support. And so then I was like, well, how many laws are there? And all of a sudden, it came very clear there was 12 laws, and I was like, okay, got it. And for these last 12 years, the studies, I was like, right, I've seen these paths through all of mysticism, so let's find them. So I spent my next little bit of time going through like, what are the 12 laws? And so then we found the 12, or I just came through and found like, where are those 12 laws of co-creation? And it made sense to me. I'm like, we have 12 months of the year. We have, even in Christianity, we have the 12 disciples. We have, if you go into spirituality, we've got the 12 disciples that are male, and we have the 12 disciples that are female. We've got 12s come through in a lot of places. And so all of a sudden I started looking at these laws, and I wanted every law to be able to bridge both mysticism and science. We needed to see them in both. And so the 12 were founded. That happened, finished the 2 days before I left for New York. And I left for New York and immediately started, the first question that was asked as I got there was, what's your movement? What is your legacy for your life? And I was like, oh shit. And we started downloading this huge legacy, which I refer to as the Aligned Human Movement, or the Aligned Human Project. So I'll tell you guys now, you'll be the first to know that in November, we will be changing the podcast from Sovereignty Rising to the Aligned Human Project. It is the umbrella of everything I do, all of my work, every coaching program I put out, all those things, they are all about alignment. And so it became this understanding of like, this is your job. And the reason it's the Aligned Human Movement or Project is because for the last 8, I have been shown over and over and over again, it can't be just women. It needs to be both. We need to heal the divine feminine in all of humanity, not just females. This isn't just about the rise of the female. It's, the problem is we all have divine feminine. We all have divine masculine energy. And we need to harmonize the divine feminine that's been suppressed for 2,000 years so that we can heal and harmonize the divine masculine energy, which in its distortion has become patriarchy. And patriarchy is not a male issue, it is a humanity issue. There's lots of women that buy in, and because for survival, we've moved to that intellectual patriarchy mentality. And so we need to heal this divine feminine. We don't need matriarchy. It's equivalent on the other side as patriarchy. So we need to heal the divine feminine, heal the divine masculine, so that we can get this harmonization that will create an aligned human. And so this has become a major project and movement that we move forward. I'm telling you guys this because all of this is the space between two doors. So I thought I'd hit the other door as a coach, 8 years ago when I started. I started coaching before that. I realized the other day it's like 10 years in since I started doing like John Maxwell and stuff, but it was more leadership. And so now, like 10 years later, here we are. And I'm like, oh, here's the door. And I'm like, got it. And everything goes under this piece. And so life is what happens in that space between two doors that feels like nothingness, and it's not. Because every single moment that we're present, every single day that you wake up and are present in your life, you are learning, absorbing, ascending. We are expanding. And that is so freaking important. And so we always want to go to that next big thing, but it's all this time in between that actually is life. And we are meant to experience life. We are the divine, we are light in form, and it is our job, our purpose, to experience life, to create and experience what we're creating. And that's beautiful when we can suddenly get really present with it instead of dragging our past in with it. And so this concept of space between letting go, because most of what we need to let go of is our past. It's our personal past, our experiences that we've had, things we've done, things that have happened, to us. I will air quote that one, as well as ancestral past. We what we understand now of the molecules of emotion is every emotion is released. Every time we have an emotion, neuropeptides are released. That's how we feel them. We get this flush of neuropeptides. We experience the emotion. Those neuropeptides do not release out of our body unless we release the emotion. So every time we suppress something, every time we resist something, those neuropeptides remain in our body as a toxin and creates a dissonance, dis-ease. So our body becomes out of ease with the more neuropeptides that we keep here because they're not meant to be here. Normal but not natural. Naturally, we're supposed to just there's the experience. Oh, we let that go and then we move on. So we have these neuropeptides. So these are the molecules of emotion. There's a book called Molecules of Emotion with the scientist that found these, that's the founder of all sorts of amazing things. Candace, I want to say Berg, but I could be wrong on her last name right now. Neuroscientist, phenomenal things that she's researched and been part of. So Molecules of Emotion is a fantastic book if you want to kind of learn about that. It's not very long, but it's pretty cool. And so I say this too because when we pull our past and we don't let go of something, so we hold on to the resentment, we hold on to the judgment, we hold on to the hurt, the pain, even the joy. And so when we keep waiting for a great experience to happen again, and we're judging or comparing this moment to something in the past that was amazing, that is just as dysregulating for us as it is for the negative. So keep that in mind because we are comparing this moment to something else and finding it less than. And so this is the importance of us letting go. And then that letting go, when we finally release those things, there's all this space and it can feel like nothingness. But what we're actually doing is creating space to be able to receive the next moment, to receive the next experience, to witness the miracle of life unfolding in front of us. And we can only do that when we let go. We need to make the space first. And most of us, myself included, don't want to let go until we know what's coming or why we should. And so the importance is understanding that slows things down and we won't get the next thing. We won't have any of those things that we desire in our life if we continue to drag the past with us, because it's dragging the past into present time, like into the present moment, that it creates time. So it slows energy from flowing the way that it's supposed to, the way that it's designed to. And so understanding, I'm like, how did I put this? I'm like, okay, here we go. 12 laws. I call them field and form. So in field, still recognizing itself after we stop forcing. So when we all of a sudden stop controlling things, we get this opportunity for the energy to be there and open. We create that space of field, what I call field. So field is anything that is not in form yet. And so thoughts, emotions, ideas, beliefs, those are all field. And field is not only our own emotions, like all those pieces, anything that's non-tactile, and then we create form. And so then we get into the results of something. And so field always precedes form. So that's why it's important for us to release the emotions, the resentment, our thoughts, our limiting beliefs. There's a need for us to release these things because they are what's creating form. And so if we don't shift the field, then we will create a form that we might not actually desire. And so as we leave these pieces behind, we create this space, and then new things can arise for us to have a different outcome. And it's, depending on how fast we do it, it'll depict on how fast we experience it. Because weight, WEIGHT, of our baggage of the past that we insist on carrying, will directly impact the weight, WAIT, of what we're creating. So weight equals weight. And that is one of the laws of co-creation, and surrender's the journey. So, and so noting that the form has to catch up, so to speak. So it takes a bit of time for us to reorganize all of these things. The energy shifts, and it's not just our energy, it's our energy that is interacting with the energy of the world. So my energy interacting with all the people that are in this building right now, in the clinic, as well as space. Like this space around me is not empty. It is filled with information, with light, with brilliance. And so my energy, my frequency, my excitement, my enthusiasm is interacting with all these other energies. And so as I shift my energy, it might take a bit for everything else to shift around me, shift the moods, the experience of the people around me. And you can see this when you meet somebody and you're like, I just love their vibe. Like I was having such a shitty day and I had coffee and I just feel so much better. It's a great example of how one person's energy impacts and changes another, and then now the world needs to interact with those energies different, and we have another form that comes out, and that's the part that can take a bit of time. And so sometimes it can be disheartening. It's like, I'm doing all of this healing work, I'm doing all these things, but I'm not seeing the outcome yet. Just keep going. Sometimes it takes a little bit for everything to get organized that we're creating. And so, the shifts, the ripple out takes a moment. And then I said the 3 supporting laws. Okay, so 3 supporting laws for how this goes down is law 3, so presence over power. I'm going to do a quick one for you guys. So presence over power. So power only exists here and now. The past has already collapsed into memory. The future is still vapor. Only this moment holds life force. Our soul is only an entity of present time. And so spiritually, the presence is, I wrote God's address, mystics across traditions insist the now is the doorway. Scientifically, the body proves this. Breath, heartbeat, nervous system regulation all exists only in present. When the mind drags you back into regret or forward into fear, you split your energy and weaken the signal. And so the weight of the baggage becomes the weight of change. So this is one of the laws that we just talked about. So this is how this impacts this space that we're moving through. Law 5 is alignment over control. So blatantly what we're talking about today. So surrender's the strategy. And so control is the great illusion. The more we grip, the more life slips through our fingers. Spiritually, every tradition teaches surrender. Taoism calls it Wu Wei. Christianity calls it Thy will be done. Science affirms that the system works best when there is adaptability and not rigidity. Judgment, expectations, and demand to know why narrow the field and block our guidance. And so this is the law that I have explained to you guys before. Right now, I've renamed for alignment over control, which before I was saying is releasing all expectations, let go of all judgments, and let go of the need to know why things happen as they do. So this would be that law that's in play here. And so curiosity, detachment, and trust, so the opposite of those three things that I said before, so expectation, judgment, and need to know why. Instead, we want to move to curiosity, detachment, and the trust. Expand it. Alignment isn't passive, it's fierce clarity about who you are and what matters most. So this comes into our values. If you're not sure what your values are, message in here and I will send you the values worksheet so that you can play with it. Know that it often takes people about 3 months to figure out their 5 core values, and our values evolve as we do. So as I've evolved, as I've expanded, my values have shifted. So I moved from freedom to sovereignty. I moved from loyalty to integrity, and understanding that there's a big difference here. And so for a long time, I would always say, you know, I'm a loyalist. And I realized that often when loyalty takes me out of alignment, it's because I'm not in integrity. And so I had to make that shift over and understand the difference. And so as I grew, as I expanded, then I was able to make that change. So know that as you're exploring, who am I? Because that's the important part. So fierce clarity about who you are and what matters most, while surrendering the how and the when. This law dismantles hustle and control and replaces them with trust and presence. When you stop trying to bully life into submission, you discover it was always conspiring to meet you. Say this is a recovering hustler. So this is like, these laws have been very difficult for me. I am being very open about how much I have moved through these over these 8 years, because it was about 8 years ago that the first 7 laws were given to me. Hello, Nicole. Yay. Yes. Okay. And then the other one is 12. So grace and guidance. And so 12 laws, here we go. So grace and guidance are cofactors. You are not creating alone. Spiritually, grace is the invisible hand of the divine, the higher self, archetypes, angels, ancestors walking with you. Scientifically, synchronicity can be seen as a pattern recognition and probability aligning. But that doesn't make it any less miraculous. Coincidence is co-instance, a co-created instance. It's just freaking beautiful. Your field aligning with higher order. Guidance comes when you ask, when you listen, and when you act on what you hear. Grace arrives in the cracks between your effort, carrying you where you couldn't push yourself. The law teaches you to stop pretending you're the sole architect of your life. You are co-creating in a cosmic partnership. Human grit and divine grace braided together. And so those 12 laws really help us understand what is happening, why it's important that we follow through with this, and what is going to be the experience on the other side. And so faith is a lot different than the energy of hope, which is not something that I really aspire for. So hope isn't something that I look for, but I'm often looking for faith, where faith is like digs deep. You can't explain it, but I just have faith it's going to work out. Whereas hope is softer, it's more topical. And so watching those languages and the energy behind an emotion, and a word are vitally important. They teach us a lot. So those are 3 supporting laws on this understanding of the space between letting go and what's going to come next for us. It was like, what did I say there? We're sitting in the sacred in between the void after surrender and before the new form. Got it. So this is kind of where we're sitting into. I always love when I read my things afterwards. I'm like, what was I saying there? Because I just give myself bullet points. And then here we go. So in the embodiment of this. And so I call it the flow scan. So and what we're really trying to do is do heart breath. And so if we understand heart breathing, you can look it up for like Greg Braden does heart coherence breathing. If you put heart coherence breathing in YouTube, you'll find tons of them. I teach it a lot with my clients because it's a powerful way to find coherence within our own bodies, within our own systems. And so heart coherence breathing is when we breathe into our heart. So you can imagine or visualize, depending on which type of person you are, that when you're breathing in, you're drawing the energy of the breath into the center of your heart. And at the very center of our heart, we have that first spark of divine light, that spark, that aspect of ourself, that first moment of creation. And we want to take that spark, and as we inhale, we're bringing it to flame. So you can think like a candle. So we go from spark to flame. And then with each breath, we're expanding that flame, that luminescent glow. So like a candle, we're expanding that luminescent glow. So when you light a candle at first, room's dark, there's just the light. But as you give it a moment, we get what we call foot candles. And so the candle luminescent glow goes out foot by foot by foot. It's measurement of light. And so as we're getting our foot candles of a light, this is what we are getting. And the same thing happens within us. And so when we breathe into our heart and we make it a choice, so we're intentional, we breathe in, we go spark to flame, and then at each exhale, we're expanding that light until it fills our whole body, until it pours through the pores of our skin and moves into the space around us. And so we're giving ourselves this overall glow. From an energetics point of view, we have two meridians, the governing meridian and the central meridian. Governing meridian goes from back of throat, roof of mouth, over the crown of the head, down the back of the body, down the spine to the tip of the tailbone, and actually just slightly under to the perineum, where it connects with the central meridian that runs up the front over the pubic bone, through the navel, breastbone, all the way up, back of the mouth into the back of the throat, where it connects. Those two meridians, energetic riverways or pathways, run together, and they actually create what we call guardian chi, which is like the force field around our body that absorbs negative energy, negative frequency, not just somebody's bad attitude, but also like the energy waves that come from like other electronics, that sort of thing. So the guardian chi, so it's supporting us from the environment. And so we can do this as we take our light, we blow it, we expand it, we actually create or support the strengthening of that guardian chi, that field of energy that is around us. And so it can, when you're in negative situations, a bit of a force field. And so it's kind of that piece, when we're a kid, what bounces off of me and sticks to you, kind of a bit of the same concept, except instead what it does is it absorbs that negative energy and it transmutes it. So it kind of like neutralizes negative energy. So that's kind of the energetic feeling of what we're putting out into this world. To do this flow scan, we want to do the breath work first. So we breathe into the heart. We exhale, we just start expanding inch by inch by inch, getting it through our body, through our skin. And then we can ask, where am I trying to rush what's still forming? This can also work really well as a journaling practice. And so we can ask that question, what am I trying to rush that's still forming? And we start doing this breath just for 1 minute. You can set a timer. And so we just start breathing and expanding the field. And as we exhale, what we're doing is we're exhaling as well the need to know. And so we're starting to move ourselves into this rhythm of coherence where we're in flow with the world around us, with source, with creation, with God, whatever you want to call creative energy. And so getting ourselves into that flow state, and we do that by opening our heart. And so when we open the heart and we're getting into that flow state, we're creating a lot of strength and we're creating a lot of resiliency. We're also creating, on an energetic point and a physical point, we're actually creating a lot of immunity. So immunity to other people's negative energy. We create immunity. We're actually strengthening our immune system. And so there's a lot of components that go with this. So don't underestimate the strength of your breath, the strength of you, and what you're capable of doing, because we are far more powerful than we've ever been led on to. And, I got into meditation by controlling pain with my breath. That was what got me into it, because I was like, if I can do this, what the hell else can I do? And so all of a sudden I opened that doorway, but it started by controlling pain that the doctors couldn't help with. And so we are very powerful. So don't underestimate the value of doing heart coherence breathing. When you're doing a heart coherence breath, so this is really encouraged first thing in the morning, is we get into this heart coherence, we bring to mind something that we are incredibly grateful for. It could be just our eyes opening this morning. It could be a loved one. It could be a pet. It could be anything. But we're just grateful for this moment, and we open our heart to that and bring gratitude in. Then we're creating this heart coherence, and we're creating an environment for ourselves where we can create the life we desire. And it helps us let go of the shit that ain't serving us anymore. Okay. Trust the field knows more, or knows before form does. So just remember that we are moving into this place of understanding that the form is the outcome. And so what we're changing, what we're doing inside of ourselves is coming into form. But that collapsing of energy, the shifting, because remember, if you've already created something, it has to disintegrate and then be reformed. And so sometimes that can just take a bit of time that we don't really think about. And so trusting that if we keep that vibe up, life's going to change all around us, because it's starting to be created from a higher frequency, because field always, by law, precedes form. So trusting that the field knows before form does. So my invite to you guys, where are you learning to flow instead of force? For me, it's been pretty much everywhere my whole life. I was a control freak, so I'm learning how to flow with it all. So where in your life is this a place for you where you want to do it, or that you are already learning how to be more in flow over form, or over force? I hope this brought some value to you guys, and helps with what you're going through in your life, and I look forward to hearing from you all. I love you. I'm excited for this community and for all that we are creating. Next week, I will be giving an announcement. I'm going to come in here and do it before the Facebook Live, just because I want you guys to know first. We're creating a 12-month coaching program that is, I guess I'm telling you a little bit right now. It's called Align Your Life. It aligns with my book that'll be coming out in late winter, early spring, called Align Your Life, and it is based on these 12 laws. So it will be a coaching program that is launching in November. It is going to be, instead of $3,000, it's going to be $997. It is going to be the first Sunday of every month, and it'll be 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I'm going to spend the first 30 to 45 minutes kind of teaching on the laws, and then the next 90 minutes ish we'll be giving love seats. So doing active coaching, in-group coaching. So it's once a month coaching that is all based around this. And you get to ask questions in your real life and real time. And if you can't make one of those weeks, then it will be recorded, so you can watch it at your own time. And we'll be creating a group around that as well. But just to keep that conversation and community up. But I just wanted to give you guys that heads. I will do it separate as well as I launch this with everything else that is shifting. I might jump in here tomorrow and let you guys know. I might do it this weekend, but I'll give you the heads up in advance. But I'm excited for what is coming down the pipeline. The movement is the Aligned Human Project, and there's a lot of really cool things that I'm being guided to do. So I'm excited to experience it all with you guys. All right. Much love to you all. I look forward to chatting with you soon. Please never hesitate. If you don't feel safe putting it in the messages, you can throw me a message. So feel free to do that, or send me an email. I'm a little slow on my emails, but it's another way that you can get a hold of me. All right, you guys, have a fabulous day, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now. Yay!